Joining us right now is Washington correspondent for the Toronto Star, Daniel Dale. Daniel, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So, Prime Minister Trudeau had a pretty good relationship with Trump's predecessor. What do you expect these leaders will be discussing at the meeting today?
Well, Trudeau's message, I think, boils down to please don't hurt us. You know, the message from Canadian officials over the course of this month and since Trump has been elected has been, you know, we know that you want to punish Mexico, you want to fix the trade relationship, but we're a part of NAFTA too, and we're a good part of it. We're not hurting your workers, we're not hurting your economy. So trade will be undoubtedly at the forefront of their discussions today.
Yeah, I mean, and there is truth to that, right? I mean, when we spoke with Wilbur Ross here, when he was first named as Trump's pick for Commerce Secretary, he said it's really about Mexico and that the Canadian deal is okay. So maybe if he has to redo NAFTA, there are tweaks, but what would you expect from a changed NAFTA as far as Canada is concerned?
Well, there have been some hints that they're looking at some really kind of technical, arcane stuff like the dispute resolution body, but nothing that the average worker would identify as sort of a radical change to, you know, the way that the trade relationship operates. So I think there's hope in Canada, and there's been some reassuring signs from the Trump administration that whatever they want to do with regard to Canada, it's not going to be the type of major thing that, you know, the average worker in a factory in Ontario or in Michigan or wherever would notice.
Danielle, Kirsten Haglund here. Obviously, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is a part of the Liberal Party. He was elected on this kind of, you know, very liberal sentiment and, you know, wanting to really take care of Canada's workers. However, he was very outspoken about the travel ban and, you know, recent actions that President Donald Trump has done. How is this meeting and maybe his intention and desire to get along with Donald Trump going to affect his approval ratings and, you know, his favorability among the Canadian people?
You know, it might. It's a really delicate balance for him because he has made a painstaking effort to not anger Donald Trump. He wants to be on Trump's good side. He doesn't want the president to take some sort of, you know, vengeful, angry action on trade. But he's facing a lot of pressure from the left in Canada. Trump's approval rating in Canada is 15%. And so there are a lot of people who want him to, you know, stand up to this president that people think is hurting the world. And so, you know, how he is seen to strike that balance, particularly in their joint press conference at 2 o'clock, I think, you know, may have an impact on how he's seen in Canada.
Hey, Daniel, Buck Sexton, you have two people here with Trump and Trudeau who obviously are celebrities in their own right. They're well known in their own countries and are used to being in the public eye. Do you think that on a person-to-person level, despite the politics and the differences that have already been discussed here, do you think they might get along and strike up quite a rapport? It seems to me possible that maybe Trump and Trudeau will be unlikely but close friends after this. At least there's the chance that that might happen.
There's a chance. I mean, they would be, you know, an odd couple. This is a 45-year-old liberal, you know, multilateralist who talks about, you know, protecting the environment and helping refugees. And Donald Trump, you know, a 70-year-old, you know, America First conservative nationalist who has banned Syrian refugees. But I think, you know, they're both charismatic in their own way. They both, you know, had prominent fathers. They both are used to being in the public eye. And I think what we've seen from President Trump is that often it doesn't matter what, you know, his counterpart's ideology is. What he respects is how they comport themselves on a personal level. So I think it's possible that we might see sort of not quite a bromance that we saw with Trudeau and Obama, but you know, some sort of unusual chemistry.
Here's Lauren Simonetti.
Hi, Daniel. Bromance, that's funny, but you know, that makes me think of our relations with Canada. There's a trade balance more or less here, so technically we're not talking about trade with China or Mexico where it's vastly different. How would that play in?
Yeah, so that's been the message from Canada over and over, is that we have balanced trade. We are not Mexico. We are not hurting you. And interestingly, the Trump administration dispatched someone to Justin Trudeau's cabinet retreat a few weeks ago, and that was Stephen Schwartzman. And he made the same point that, you know, Canada shouldn't be too worried. We understand that Canada is in a different position than Mexico. And so I think both sides are taking pains to emphasize that, you know, Canada is not seen as a country that's damaging the interests of the United States economically.
Let me ask you about the switch gears here, because we are waiting tonight on the Senate confirming Stephen Mnuchin to be Treasury Secretary before his likely final confirmation vote at 7 p.m. Eastern. I spoke with Mnuchin about his top priorities for Trump's first 100 days in office back in November when he was first named. Listen to this.
We got to get Fannie and Freddie out of government ownership. It makes no sense that these are owned by the government and have been controlled by the government for as long as they have. In many cases, this displaces private lending in the mortgage markets, and we need these entities that will be safe. So let me just be clear. We'll make sure that when they're restructured, they're absolutely safe and they don't get taken over again, but we got to get them out of government control.
So Fannie and Freddie, two of his priorities, as well as tax reform. He said he wants to get that tax cut plan in place within the first 100 days. What are you expecting in terms of the nomination? Democrats grilled Mnuchin during his initial hearing. Senator Claire McCaskill even asking Mnuchin if Trump was famous for firing people. How do you expect this vote to go tonight?
It seems like Steve Mnuchin has the votes. You know, he has faced questions over everything from his disclosure on those ethics forms that come with the confirmation process to, you know, the foreclosures of his companies to his personal use of, you know, offshore tax havens. So question after question, but it doesn't seem like he's generated anything like the uproar that some of Trump's other nominees have. And, you know, Democrats just don't have enough to stop him from getting confirmed.
Yeah, isn't it interesting that, you know, at the end of the day, these nominees are being confirmed, and yet it's taking forever during the process. So all these stall tactics.
Yeah, it's all part of the Democrats' plan to show that they're going to resist Donald Trump at every single turn. But you're right, they don't have the votes, and of course this plays very, very well into the drain, you know, the swamp that Donald Trump is keeping the swamp as a part of his cabinet. So it's all about messaging for the Democrats. They've got no way to oppose it.
Mnuchin was blatantly a victim of fake news as well. The story about the widow, I believe it was, who had her house foreclosed on for, I think it was 79 cents. Completely false. He wasn't at the company, didn't own the company, and also there was no foreclosure for 79 cents. So I think the politics of this have gotten more attention than would have otherwise.
I'll tell you, it's exhausting. I was watching another network this morning, and every headline is just so negative about this administration that I thought, I don't believe any of it.
It's almost like the media doesn't like it.
I believe we have 6 nominations pending to get confirmed. So, I mean, Energy Secretary Wilbur Ross at Commerce, the list goes on. So more to come.
Yeah.
Talk about negative headlines.
But he's got the majority at this point, right?
There.
But yeah, so there are 6 left, you're saying?
I believe there's 6
All
left.
right, Daniel, your thoughts finally? You think Donald Trump gets all of his nominees confirmed?
Yeah, at this point it's looking good for him. I mean, stuff that used to sink nominees in the Clinton or George W. Bush era doesn't seem to matter anymore. You know, issues with undocumented nannies, tax disclosures. You know, we're just in a different era of scandal and non-scandal. So I think he's fine.
Daniel, good to see you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Daniel Dale joining us there. Coming